The following is a presentation of TFNN. Mindful Living with Allie Ford and Tom O'Brien.
Sometimes I get a good feeling, yeah. I get a feeling that I never had before. No, I get a good feeling, yeah.
Call now, toll free at 1-877-927-6648. Internationally at 727-445-1044. Now, Allie Ford and Tom O'Brien.
Welcome to Mindful Living, everybody. It's Allie Ford and Tom O'Brien, and we want to help you get healthy, feel good, and live life to the fullest every single day.
No doubt.
And we have a great show planned for you today. Today, in just a few minutes, we're going to have the director of the Hippocrates Institute in West Palm Beach, Florida, joining us. His name is Dr. Brian Clement. He's been the director of this amazing institute for since 1980, but it's been around for 60 years. They've been a leader in alternative health care and helping people transform their life with holistic natural means. So I'm excited to talk to him.
1980s would be way before this went mainstream.
Seriously. So, you know, and this whole thing came up when we had Rick Kleppel on the show, who was healing from prostate cancer, and he had gone there to do a detox or a cleanse. I think he spent 2-3 weeks there and just raved about how amazing the Institute was, and it's right here in Florida. So Dr. Clement's going to be coming on and talking to us today.
It's a beautiful thing.
It is a beautiful thing. So I have a question for you.
Yes.
As we're talking about all the time, how to live life to the fullest.
Right.
I want to know what you've done today
to
live life to the fullest.
Okay. You know what? It's always different every day, folks, okay? I normally start my day. No, it is, okay?
Yeah? It's a good attitude.
It's always a trip. It's always a trip. There's no doubt, okay? Well, first off, so I woke up, and normally when I wake up, the first thing, I have a beautiful German Shepherd, so we normally go take a walk. We do something. And I normally go work out with Nico.
Yeah.
But what happens, of course, between this and the real estate and all of this, right? I'm saying to myself, okay, it was gorgeous out this morning.
Yes.
So I decided to light a huge fire in my backyard.
Oh, my gosh, that's spontaneous.
And it was 6 o'clock in the morning.
6 o'clock bonfire in the backyard.
It was a bonfire, baby. It was a bonfire for sure.
And what did you do?
I did nothing. I lit a bonfire. Holly was
roast some marshmallows or hot dogs?
That's when kids are over and have fun. Yeah, we'll do that. We do s'mores for sure.
Of course, I love fires. I love having a backyard fire.
Totally. So I sat out there for a good hour and a half, read the papers, grooved, listened to the birds, and
how nice is that?
Yeah. So and I like doing that in the morning, but that was a change of pace.
Yeah, totally.
And so I had to text Nico and say, "Sorry, Nico, I'm not coming."
Wow. I love it.
Yeah, so
you got to be okay with that. Living life spontaneously, doing things that are speaking to your heart. I think that's a great attitude. Yeah. I did the similar. Got outside this morning, and it was a little bit overcast, but the weather was gorgeous. I think it was 70s, and you know, in Florida, that's bonfire weather, 70 degrees.
Yeah, you know, it's so funny. And folks, there's no doubt. What ends up happening is that you almost can light a fire almost any time as long as the smoke's not coming at you, right?
Yeah, it's very true. Yeah.
Because it's just, I love how it jumps around.
I do too. It's fun to watch. It's interesting.
It just sends your mind.
Oh, this is so amazing. I watched this awesome interview, listened to this awesome interview today with Thich Nhat Hanh, who is the Buddhist monk, spiritual leader, Nobel Peace Prize winner. And he was talking about this similar attitude, how we can find beauty in every single moment of being alive. That a walk to the park, a walk through the office, a conversation, drinking a cup of tea can be what he calls a meditation, but ultimately defined as the experience of fully being present in the moment. And that sounds like what you're talking about. You're sitting there watching a fire and how amazing it is. And it's just a fire.
I know. But it is wild when you think about it.
Yeah, you can find the beauty in that.
Yeah, no doubt.
Pretty cool.
And when we talk finding beauty, guess what? We're going to have Steve Rhodes.
Oh,
do we have Steve yet? That's a beautiful thing. Steve Rhodes, what's going on?
Here's a beautiful thing. Steve Rhodes is in the house. Hi, Steve. How you doing?
Excellent, excellent. I thought it was pretty wild. I was just listening as Tom was finishing up the show, and he said, "Yeah, we're going to have Brian." I apologize, I forget his last name.
Yes.
Clement, yeah. And I said, "Wait a minute. I was just at his place on Wednesday. I went down, on Sunday. I drove over there to check it out because it was a couple weeks ago. You had the guy on that was talking about the ultrasound water type of system to help
the prostate
deal with
cancer.
some. Yeah.
HIFU, he called it. Yeah.
And I've been on and off. I used to religiously have a shot or 2 shots a day of wheatgrass.
Yes.
And it used to be convenient for me. And then also when it's not convenient, it's kind of like a hassle, because finding time to do it. I know how healthy it makes me feel and how energized and just how good it is for you. And you mentioned the Hippocrates Institute, and I got turned on to the woman Ann Wigmore 20-plus years ago, 25, and she wrote a book I think back in the 1930s or 40s.
Yeah, about wheatgrass. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah.
That very old. I remember reading that as well. A dear friend of mine, old school yogi named Doug Swenson, informed me of her and told me I should read that book. And it's very interesting. I would recommend it to a lot of people. Didn't you find it educational?
Oh no, totally.
Helpful.
And I kind of got turned on to it. And I said, then after I listened to you guys do that show, and I said, hey, the place is just down in West Palm Beach.
So you drove all the way from Orlando to West Palm Beach?
Yeah.
You are awesome, man. That's amazing.
And
you didn't even know this guy was coming on, right?
No, not at all.
That is so cool.
And I wanted to get a juicer. I figured, let me just go down and see what these guys are all about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Also, just see what information they've got there. Just see what it's see what it's all about.
Yeah.
And ended up having lunch there, eating all their sprouts and everything. And the folks were so helpful.
Yeah.
Maybe I did it on Saturday, not Sunday. But and it's a cool place for sure.
That is so great.
It's in our backyard, you know what I mean? So why not?
Yeah,
why not?
Definitely. I love that you did that, Steve, that you got to go visit. I'd actually love to go myself, and I'd love to do an interview on site there and see the facilities and just understand more about the therapies they're offering.
He's got a book called Life Force. And so back about, I'm going to guess now, time flies, but I'm going to guess 10 years ago or so. I don't have the exact time, but I remember buying and reading that book.
Oh my gosh.
I saw the title as I walked through the store. I said, "That's the guy." It was just.
Hey, so let me ask you something. When you were over in Japan, opening all these places and all that, were you hitting the wheatgrass then too?
Well, no, in Japan I wasn't. But when I would, when I did travel, I was telling somebody the other day that as I traveled around the states, I had stores in other cities, other states. I could tell you where the wheatgrass places were, and that's how dedicated. That's how dedicated I was to it.
That's cool.
As a way to start my day. And then what happened was I ended up getting one of these deals that you could do by hand. You just hook up to, and that just got to be a hassle.
It takes a long time.
Yeah,
right,
finally.
to juice it that way.
Yeah, now what's cool about I'm sure he'll tell you what's cool about their places. They tell you where you can buy all the sprouts. They've got this little place there for folks that are in that area in South Florida. There's a place that can deliver all this stuff to you. So it's even
we got to find a place like that in Tampa.
I'm telling you,
there's got to be a place around it. We'll find it.
Yeah.
To me, that's the amazing thing. So and I so respect what he and his wife are doing, have done. Went and ate in their cafeteria and just observed all the people that were there, that are there for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or something like that, and they're very receptive to locals obviously coming in there. And what's always just so amazing to me is just how important what it is that the two of you are sharing with everybody, but just how important this is for all of us, and the importance of health, and just how far and few between it is to be able to find something like this.
Yes.
Yeah. I think what's so wonderful, just as you said, Steve, is there's so much information out there. We need to arm ourselves with that information and make better choices. I mean, it really does come down to us, But I'm just so thankful that you went there and called in. And without further ado, we actually have Dr. Clement on the phone.
Oh, cool.
So,
go to him.
Yeah,
go to
Steve,
him, guys.
thanks for calling in.
Thanks,
we'll
no problem.
Appreciate it.
No problem. Have a great day, guys. I'm going to listen in. Okay, bye-bye.
Beautiful. So, without further ado, as we say, we have health and wellness expert Dr. Brian Clement, director of the Hippocrates Institute in West Palm Beach, Florida, with us. Dr. Clement, are you with us?
I'm with you. How are you doing over there in Tampa?
Oh, beautiful.
We're doing great. Welcome.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
It's a pleasure.
My first question for you is, why do people come to the Hippocrates Institute?
Well, for the 60 years that Hippocrates has been in existence, the very first 30 was in Boston, where we founded the Institute, because our founder reversed stage 4 cancer. And now for the remaining time, about 30 years here in West Palm Beach, is because people have been sick, and they're getting sicker and sicker and sicker. And we've been on a relentless mission for more than a half a century to basically tell people they've got to take their lives back.
Right.
And so there's an ever-growing group of healthy people that come to us, too. And there's a small group of the elite who come to us to stay young. So it's a cross-section. It's sort of like your town or your neighborhood. And right now, as an example, we're filled, as most often always, and we have 17 countries represented. So it's not just a Florida institute or an American institute. It is an international institute at this point.
Wow.
And we've learned over the years pretty well what it takes for people to remain young and youthful and fight and eliminate disease. And it really is your lifestyle. And in this country, sadly, we have relegated ourselves at this point to think that every remedy is a pill. And it's outrageous. I mean, if Americans really knew how much we've been conned, I think they'd wake up a little bit.
Yeah.
As an example, the population of the world is 7 billion people. We have only a measly 320 million people, less than 5% of the population of the planet Earth. We consume in the United States 50% of the pharmaceutical drugs.
Yeah.
That's
And
sick.
there's one example for you.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Well, we talk about that on the show, how, we do so often turn to that, what we think is the solution without going deeper and finding the source of the problem.
Yes.
So,
I mean, the source of a problem is us. I mean, if you just look at it 90% of the time, genetics really play little to no role in any of this. And they use genetics as sort of guerrilla marketing and tell you, everyone in your family has died of such a disease, so you better just get on board here and do something. We're in the middle of a study with the University of California to disprove genetics has anything to do with cancer, as an example.
wow.
Hopefully that study will be published next year, and hopefully somebody will have integrity in a medical journal, a prestigious one, and publish it. We're the walking example for all of these years, the very first institute like this on the planet Earth, that we don't change genes. We're not natural people to the point where we run the planet. And we cannot change genes. We change lifestyles. And tens of thousands of people have recovered from cancer, stage 4 cancers, and every other known disease that you can imagine, because it's not a genetic disease. And if you talk to the geneticists, they're going to tell you less than 5% of disorder comes from genetics.
You know what's amazing about what you're saying, and is that to bring the propaganda, the propaganda in the medical community, to me it would seem like the worst side of it, when you're talking about breast cancer, okay? And I'm a guy, so I mean I'm pushing it here a little, but when I've read so many stories, okay, that the medical community is saying, guess what? If it's in your DNA, you may have it, and then you read about these women basically, getting
double mastectomies,
yes,
right? Just
because they're worried about living.
Right.
I mean,
every year or so, this may stun the listeners. Over 8,000 women who do not have cancer lay on a table and have their breast removed.
Right.
It's insanity. It really is insanity. And I won't name any names, but you'll know who I'm talking about. An actress I really admired who was taking orphan children and he thought, gee, she must be a pretty smart and nice person. She even succumbed to it.
That's right.
Because her aunt and her grandmother basically had cancer. But nobody ever asked the question, was your father abusive? Did you, like at my house when I was growing up, we fried bacon every morning. Do you think this has anything at all to do with the possibility that everyone had, breast cancer? And then they throw things out like BRCA genes. Well, you know how many people I've worked with who were told they had BRCA genes, it was irreputable, who today, 10, 20, 30 years later, literally are completely free of cancer, living a healthy life? Why? Because they took responsibility for their life. They stopped eating the garbage.
Yes, we're going to talk a lot more about that, folks. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with more from Dr. Brian Clement. Stay right there.
Like
We're told to follow our passion and everything else will fall into place. I hope that's what each of you are doing each and every day. Hi, I'm Steve Rhodes, host of the Money Master Show at TFNN.com, and my passion for technical analysis is what led me to the most fundamental discovery in pattern recognition, the Rhodes Momentum Indicator, market scanner, and trading strategy. A set of tools that identify the momentum and power of the trend, the likes of which have never been seen before, for every market and every time frame. Yes, folks, the trend is your friend, unless you're on the other side. New to technical analysis? This is the place to start. And experienced traders, take advantage of the trend like never before. Experience the power of the Rhodes Momentum Indicator each day, available to subscribers of my newsletter service, Mastering Probability. I guarantee your satisfaction for the next 30 days, unconditionally, so there's no risk to you, other than being on the wrong side of the trend. Mastering Probability, available on the homepage at TFNN.com. And folks, live with passion.
No matter where you listen to TFNN programming, we want you to know you can always access your favorite shows on demand through TFNN.com. TFNN airs live programming every market day from 9 a.m. till 6 p.m. Eastern, and you can view each program by accessing Tiger TV through our homepage. We even have an easy link for all mobile devices, including iPhones and iPads, located at the top right-hand corner of the TFNN homepage. You can't use your smartphone to view Tiger TV, but if you don't have a mobile connection that can keep up with streaming live video, then you can simply visit TFNN.mobi in the browser of your smartphone for live streaming audio of all of our programs. The mission of TFNN is to educate our audience directly and interactively through our interactive website and radio call and talk shows. TFNN is able to teach all levels of investors the technical skills needed to trade in today's marketplace. In order to get the best information possible, TFNN has assembled the most respected financial minds in the country to provide the most current news and comprehensive advice available. TFNN.com. Educating investors. Yesterday's gone. Tomorrow's not here. What are you doing right now? Mindful Living with Allie Ford and Tom O'Brien.
Oh, sometimes I get a good feeling, yeah. Get a good feeling, yeah.
Welcome back to Mindful Living, folks. We're here with Dr. Brian Clement of the Hippocrates Institute. That's a tongue twister for me. In West Palm Beach that I'm dying to visit. And Dr. Clement, you were just talking about how the choices we're making in life, the nutrition that we are consuming is causing disease. So my question for you is, do you firmly believe that if we make the right choices, we can literally prevent and heal disease in our body?
I don't only believe it. I've been practicing for 42 years, watching in my life 250,000 people, 250,000 people do that very thing. And I had the great fortune back in the 70s to work in clinics, help to develop clinics in Europe, and got a whole insight to that. I'm fortunate to have my wonderful wife, who ran a famous clinic in Sweden, that she's the co-director of Hippocrates. So this is something that is scientifically validated. This is not a theory. This isn't health food alone. This is a lifestyle that saves lives.
Yeah.
And by the way, keeps you young and vital. None of us that live this way age the way the rest of the population does.
Well, that's enough to sign me up right now.
There's no doubt about that.
So would you talk more about the nutrition that you guys teach at Hippocrates?
Well, again, our diet for all of the years since the 50s has been a plant-based diet. Now, finally, it's coming into style. The one unlikely American I never expected in a million years to eat this way is former President Clinton.
Right.
He's on board now. And, you know, I asked my buddy who talked to him, and I said, what did he say? And he said, well, when I addressed him on the phone and said, Mr. Clinton, you know, nobody gets a third bypass. They all die after that.
Yeah.
I said, what did he say? And he said, nothing for about 30 seconds. And then he said, well, I guess if I have to eat vegetables, I will. So,
that's what living will do for you, right?
And when you say plant-based, do you mean...
Fright and fear is a good impetus, but don't get to that point. Don't get up cancer. Don't end up with, you know, diabetes, which is... Type 2 diabetes is not a disease. For these doctors to be telling you it's a chronic disease and you need drugs for the rest of your life, shame on them. I've never seen a type 2 diabetic not be able to reverse it by changing their lifestyle. And, you know, diet is a part of this, and we'll get into it. About a couple of years ago, I was walking on the stage to speak to a group of physicians, and who was coming off as one of my nemesis, I thought. Former head of the FDA, Dr. David Kessler. And Dr. Kessler grabbed me at my hand, looked me in the eye, and said, I used to think guys like you were quacks, no longer. So to be polite, I was taught by my mom to be polite. I said, what are you doing? And he said, I'm working with childhood obesity. And I said, boy, that's a great cause, because if you think America's sick now, you wait. Because 70% of our children are overweight, obese, or morbidly obese.
Right.
It's going up by the year. And so then he went further, and I was stunned because I had to get up and address a group for an hour. He said to me, do you realize every major food industry in this country and around the world have chemists on their payroll that their solo job is to put addictive substances in food so you become permanently addicted to it?
Yes.
Oh.
This was like me saying, it was like a revelation, and from a guy that a minute before I thought, gee, I had no love for him. Instantly I fell in love with him. He wrote a book that maybe the listeners want to read called The End of Overeating, and he reports what that is. It's called hyperpalatability. So when you're so heavy and sick and out of shape and you're going through these drive-through fast food joints, they all have opiate type of chemicals in the food. And when your kids are getting cookies from mainstream markets, they all have opiate chemicals in it. And so this is assuring these companies for long-time patronage, for life.
Sure.
And until people wake up, this is dangerous stuff. How about the pesticides, fungicides, herbicides? How about the genetic modification of food, which, by the way, they don't allow happening in many countries around the world? Right. How about last week when we found out that rubber, the same thing they make yoga mats out of, is allowed to be put in bread in America at some of the biggest fast food restaurants? How about when we find these things out? Who's watching? Well, that's what most of the listeners don't realize. Nobody's watching and nobody cares. It's all about money. It's all about corporations getting more money and not your health and your children's health. And it's insane. And this is illegal as far as I'm concerned and should be punished.
It really should be. It just is unfortunate what seems to be controlled by money, things that are allowed to pass. But that too is a whole other conversation.
Well, the addiction aspect of what these companies have done with food is disgusting. And, as you just said, the younger generation, Bridget and I the other night, we were at a high school, fun time. And it was terrible when you look around and realize that, it's not just our generation. You're looking around and say, oh, my God, if the children are that overweight at this particular point, what the heck is going to happen?
Who do you think taught them? Addicted parents, addicted grandparents. Now, when I was a little guy, fast foods were not around, and probably by the time I was a teenager, the first fast food restaurants came, and I remember they lured you in. It was the place that people hung out at fast food restaurants, and then they put, for instance, toys along with the fast foods. And then they put playgrounds out in front of them. And this is a big marketing plan that goes deep. And they don't tell you that they put all of these addictive substances in the food, and they don't tell you that they have rubber in their bread. But the fact of the matter is, you are going to be eating that stuff. You're going to end up with cancer. It used to be, 100 years ago, only 3% of the population in Europe and North America got cancer. Today, it's going to be over 50% of you listening will have cancer. When I'm about ready to speak at medical conferences, they pull me aside, and I never agree with them, by the way, and never do what they say. They said, do not tell people that cancer is a catastrophic disease. Tell them it's a chronic disease. Well, I'm not going to do that. It's a catastrophic disease. And by the way, when you get medical treatment for cancer, look at these statistics, not listen to me alone, look at the medical statistics. 93% of the people that are medically treated for cancer and do not do anything else, don't change, will eventually die from cancer.
93%.
Yeah. Let me ask you. I understand. I read your bio. You're Irish. Growing up, when you're talking about the bacon.
I hear a fellow Irishman there.
right from Boston. Right from Boston, by the way. Okay.
Why the hell do you think we know how to talk?
Yeah, totally. So listen. When you brought up the bacon, I know what you're saying. You not only had the bacon fat, you had the bacon fat on the stove when you were cooking with it. Okay.
You got it.
Meat and potatoes, right? So this would be the question. And I've been a vegetarian twice in my life. Once for 2 years, once for 5, right? But now, I get this meat thing going. And so I don't eat grains, eat paleo, I eat a lot of meat, I eat vegetables. So, I was just saying to Allie, I says, hopefully by the time I get off this program, maybe I'll get even healthier again, right?
So you better. Look, meat kills you. Meat causes cancer. There's not a legitimate person in the world. I don't know how some of these doctors, who have blinders on, write books and tell you that we're all primitive people and should eat a paleo diet.
Okay.
It's a cute idea, but it's not a functional idea. We are the oldest, most respected natural health institute on the planet Earth. People come to us to do research.
Sure.
We take 100% of people off animal-based food. Again, when people are told they're going to die with catastrophic disease, the smart ones come to us, apply the program. We don't heal people. It's a magic show and a sales pitch to tell people you heal. We support them, we love them, we educate them, and for the rest of their life we counsel them by mail. And they get well from catastrophic because they take away meat and dairy food. I mean, don't buy into this mythology and the anthropology that they fabricate as they go. Most of us on the planet today, today, 6 out of 10 of us are primarily plant-based eaters. We were not all meat eaters, by the way, and then some of us, 60% of us, went to vegetables, and it's not because they're poor they eat vegetables. The fact of the matter is arrogance and affluence go together, and as we become affluent, it became popular. The kings and queens ate meat and drank the milk out of another species. And people started to look at that and aspire, well, gee, when I have a little bit of money, I'm now middle class, I'm going to do the same silly stuff. But the fact of the matter is, there's no such thing as organic meat. I mean, that's a mythology.
Yeah.
You look at what was in this stuff, it's just bizarre that anyone would consider it a food. Look, I weighed 120 pounds more than I do now when I started this. I dropped 120 pounds by giving up meat and then dairy food in a matter of 2 years. And I gave up cigarettes, by the way, at the same time.
That's giving up a lot right there.
Yeah.
What do you say to all the people
you know
who
what
say...
I did? I didn't give up much. I got a lot.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
You know,
it's a matter of perspective, and I think, as you say, investing in yourself. And we're getting some comments in our chat room now. It says, one person says, I tried vegan for 2 days. I didn't like it a bit. One person says, thank you for the truth, Dr. Clement. But I do hear people saying, you know, they try vegan or just plant-based, and they either get, they're not getting sufficient nutrients, or they get not enough.
Number one, knowledge is the savior. If you do what I did when I first became a vegan, of course it's not healthy for you. But let me tell you, what you're doing now is not healthy. All those listeners who say, I don't like it, you know, you're detoxing, and you're changing habits. And when you're giving up the drugs that they put in food, of course you're not going to like it. And 2 days aren't worth anything. You give me 2 months, maybe we'll have a discussion. You give me a year, then we'll have a discussion. You'll be saying, thank God I made it a year, and I'll never go back to that. I was the most heavy meat eater in America. I mean, I loved meat the day. I used to fry bologna.
Yeah.
Oh, totally. That was dynamite. You kidding me? Can you imagine? Can you imagine?
When I gave up meat, I was crawling up the walls for about 12 months. Every time I wanted to park the car when I smelled it coming out of a house and ask if I could eat with them.
Oh, fried bologna, man.
And then I looked back and said, how did I ever eat that? No. Now, one of my books is called Killer Fish. So a lot of people say, well, Dr. Clement's right, but I don't eat meat, I eat fish. What the heck do you think fish is? It's meat.
Right.
And if I wanted to make you sick, by the way, I'd give you a fish.
Yeah, I gave the state of the oceans.
Read my book, Killer Fish, on this one. It's just bizarre.
Yeah, I'm with you. That's the first meat I gave up, just because I saw a documentary years and years ago, about the state of our oceans. It was narrated by Leonardo DiCaprio, excuse me. And nothing's changed. In fact, if anything, it's probably gotten worse. I want to say this is over 10 years ago.
So let me ask you.
The oceanographic marine biologist, top scientists in the world, told me when I interviewed them that we're lucky if we make it to the middle of the century without the entire ocean dying. We've now fished them out to a point where it's bizarre. Most of what you're eating in these restaurants are coming from factory farms in China, and there's no laws that prevent you from saying. So these pictures of Eskimos catching with their bare hands salmon in Alaska is mythology.
It doesn't happen. Dr. Clement, we'll be right back.
Farm,
You take a hands-on approach to managing your investment strategy. You're always looking for the next trading opportunity to magnify your perspective. Direction Shares connects sophisticated traders with a powerful array of ETFs from a wide range of asset classes. The markets may go up and down, and you want tools for both sides of the trade. Discover how we can help at DirectionShares.com today. An investor should consider the investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses of the Direction Shares carefully before investing. The prospectus and summary prospectus contain this and other information about Direction Shares. To obtain a prospectus or summary prospectus, please contact Direction Shares at 800-851-0511. The prospectus or summary prospectus should be read carefully before investing. An investment in the funds is subject to risk, including the possible loss of principal. The funds are designed to be utilized only by sophisticated investors such as traders and active investors employing dynamic strategies. Investors in the fund should understand the consequences of seeking daily investment results, understand the risk of shorting, and intend to actively monitor and manage their investments. Distributor, Foreside Fund Services, LLC.
Who says you can't take it with you? TFNN says you can. With your mobile device and TFNN's live radio streams, TFNN has put it all in the palm of your hands. No special apps to download. No subscription fees for live radio or Tiger TV streams. We say you can.
Now let's go over to the dollar, because the dollar is going to be the generator. It is the generator of basically higher dollar, lower market. And what the dollar has done, and this whole uptrend, folks, has just gone sideways. The way it works, folks, is this.
We say you can. The Tiger Financial News Network. Smart investors and professional traders know you can. TFNN.com. Educating investors. Life is a mystery to be lived, not a problem to be solved. Mindful Living with Allie Ford and Tom O'Brien.
Oh, sometimes I get a good feeling, yeah. I get a feeling that I never had before. No, I get a good feeling, yeah.
We're back with more Mindful Living and Dr. Clement from the Hippocrates Institute in West Palm Beach, Florida. Dr. Clement, would you get into a little bit more specifics about what we should be eating? And because I think people have so many questions about that.
Okay, number one, if people today don't go way out of their way to eat organic food, you're insane. Pesticides, fungicides, and herbicides cause everything from mental illness to contribute to your children today, 1 out of 50, by the way, getting autism, to cardiovascular disease, and obviously cancer. Neuron diseases like MS, Parkinson's disease are all exacerbated by this. Mm-hmm. Number two, it should be in great part plant-based and not lots of fruit. You know, we tend to want to go to a lot of fruit because all of us are sugar addicts. Mm-hmm. And bottom line is, so the green leafy vegetables, fresh ones, and as you all spoke so well, I listened to you for about a minute before we came on, about sprouts. That's an organic food everyone can grow for pennies in their house. You don't have to have a lot of money to do that. And by the way, out of all foods that we can eat, like plant-based foods, these sprouts are by far the most nutritious. They're 10 to 30 times more nutritious than, by the way, the best organic vegetables you get out of the best organic soil. And they also have something in it called a phytochemical. Mm-hmm. And this was first talked about in 1948, but not really researched till 92. And now there's billions of dollars internationally being spent on this research because in 92, Johns Hopkins showed us that a cabbage and broccoli were phenomenal on preventing and eliminating cancer. But then a graduate student wisely said, well, let's test the sprout, and found out the sprout of broccoli, the seed of a broccoli that's sprouted, literally is 50 times more anti-cancer than the broccoli itself. And so these are not only foods and inexpensive and organic, and you have control over them, and it doesn't take much time. When I had all 4 of my children at my home, and my wife and I, it used to take a total of 30 minutes a week to produce massive amounts, probably about 20 pounds of sprouts a week that family would eat and juice. Mm-hmm. And the fact of the matter is they're anti-disease, not only cancer, but other diseases.
And what about raw food?
Well, this is what we are best known for. Mm-hmm. Anyone listening that has some common sense, there's not much of that in America now, would know that when you cook a food or process or fry a food or radiate a food or microwave a food, you're going to kill much of the nutrients in it. And there are 4 elements in the raw food that people hardly talk about. They're hormones, oxygen, these phytonutrients I spoke about, and enzymes. Mm-hmm. Once you cook a food above 115 degrees, and that's like light steaming, by the way, okay. You kill all of that. You wipe out the vitamins, you alter the proteins, you destroy the essential fatty acids, and you create something that in science we call acrylamide, that even an organic vegetable, an organic grain that you cook, can become carcinogenic for you. So why not eat raw food and juice raw food and make that the biggest part of your diet? Now, it's not bad enough, I've told your listeners, they have to give up all this horrible meat and dairy food, that you have to give up all cooked food, and you have to eat organic food. But this is why we've been so unbelievably helpful for all these thousands of people over the 60 years we've done this. Because we tell the truth to people. We're not in the business of making things easy for people so we can sell you. We're in the business of telling the truth so you can sell yourself.
Right.
Oh, I love your attitude. I'm telling you, man.
I do too. I think you're being real and you're passionate about it because you believe in what you're teaching, and I think that's when the message gets heard. I have another question because so nutrition, I know, is a huge part of it, but how much of the healing process is attitude? Do you have to really have conviction about this?
100% of your healing process is attitude. If you don't have a good attitude, you're going to be slipping in cookies, eating ice cream. You're not going to exercise. You're going to have bad relationships. Your attitude is 100% of everything, and I had to realize that myself. Now, when I met somebody who was a vegetarian and a vegan, 42 years ago, 43 years ago, she was my girlfriend's best friend's boyfriend. He was like 30 years old. We were 20 years old. So he seemed like a prophet. I thought he was the weirdest guy I ever met. Growing up where I did in the New York City area, if somebody didn't eat meat, they were obviously not manly.
Yeah.
And so he was like weird. He was like manly, and he did something I never heard of before called yoga. That was the weirdest thing I'd ever seen in my life in the 1960s. Mm-hmm. And so he's doing yoga, not eating meat, so he had to be, and I won't say the word, but that's what I thought. But every time he wasn't around, I'd say to my girlfriend, gee, what he ate there the other didn't taste bad, so let's try it. And there was something about it. It wasn't the flavor. I sure didn't like vegetables. My family never ate vegetables unless they were mixed in butter. Mm-hmm. But something felt right about it. And with one fell swoop, wisely, he sat with me and said, I see you hugging and kissing your dog all the time. You love animals. And this sounds naive to a grown adult. He said, you're eating them. And honestly, I was that naive, I never put it together. And so for a one fell swoop, I said, I'm going to stop doing this for a while, and never looked back. And I was really lucky because I had a mentor who was a woman at that point, 76 years old. 35 years earlier, she had reversed stage 3 cancer. Now, being an Irish guy, every time I heard the word cancer, somebody was whispering, and I was at a wake. So half my relatives died from cancer.
I know.
Wow.
And this woman's telling me, you don't have to die from cancer. What are you, nuts? You do what those bastards say, you're going to die. And so she kept encouraging me because I'll tell you, I wasn't strong enough. I would have slipped right back into eating a gallon of ice cream, every night. Mm-hmm. So she took me and said, you have to do this work. And I said, well, what is it? She said, number one, it's hard work. And now my generation, the 60s generation, we love this stuff. You're not going to make money. Money was bad. That's a good idea. But you're going to help people. And so that's how it started for me. And then when I started to meet more of people like my mentor with story after story, and I started to see the real science versus the science I was studying in school. This is commercial science. And not all of it's bad, and most of it's right, by the way. But where they went wrong is to give the resolution. It's not the diagnosis. It's not that we don't understand anatomy, biochemistry, and physiology. It's that we don't know what to do once we discover we have an abnormality, a malady in these problems. And so the answer is always, once again, as we started today, take a pill. Nobody says change your attitude, change your lifestyle. Everyone who comes to Hippocrates gets psychotherapy because we don't think you're crazy. We think we all need help. Mm-hmm. All of us can do better. You and I, every one of us. None of us are ever positive enough. None of us are ever healthy enough. Mm-hmm. And you've got to get yourself, in my opinion, to a point where you're passionate about what you do in your life, and you're so passionate that you're willing to even make efforts to do things you don't like eat right and exercise. You listen to the best business teachers today. Some of these guys are my buddies, and women are my buddies. They tell you cannot be successful unless you take charge of your lifestyle. Because at the end of the day, it's not how much money you have, it's how well you are. How good you are as a husband, a wife, a father.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
That's the bottom line at this stuff.
So let's since we destroying a lot of different things here simultaneously.
We wipe them out as we go here.
I gave up the bologna a long time ago. Yeah. All right, when I think about the fried bologna, we were out of our minds. Okay, no doubt.
Look at you used to take lobster. That wasn't bad enough, and dip it in butter.
Oh, seriously. So hey, what about drinking wine?
Well, that's another danger. Nobody tells you the truth about this. If you look at the New England Journal of Medicine, about 2 years ago, they published a study where if you drink one glass of wine 5 days a week, your chances of contracting cancer is 10% higher than a person who doesn't consume alcohol.
Okay.
And we're not talking about whiskey. And, people say to me, well, I don't drink alcohol. I drink, wine or beer. Alcohol is alcohol.
Right.
Not a different. You can mix little bits or you can take a lot. You can just be blatant and say, I really like alcohol. I'm going to drink shots of whiskey. But it's the same alcohol. The other thing you have to understand is that alcohol kills brain cells, breaks down the neurological system, and weakens your immunity. Now, this
we know that is a good hangover. There's no doubt about that.
So people say, well, wait a minute, Clement's wrong because I heard that, if you drink wine, you live longer. Who the heck do you think funds those studies?
Yeah.
Right.
You look behind them. Around every Christmas, every second or third year, somebody comes out with a study from some obscure university that was paid probably $1 million or $2 million to do this study that says, oh, by the way, if you drink one glass of scotch, you live longer, but if you drink 2, you die sooner. And they always do this around Christmas.
Yeah, right, because it's a great gift.
They know exactly how to market this stuff.
Yeah.
It's insane. So wine is not healthy. The phytochemicals in it that are good for you. In one of my books I write for the academic community called Food is Medicine, a series of three-volume series. I talk about that the phytochemical that everyone talks about and buys pills in wine is dead because of the alcohol. Now, you can get this actually by eating grapes, but the part of grape that you eat is the skin. That's where this is. It's not in the sweet, wonderful part, and nobody's going to pick away and throw the wonderful part away and eat the skins, but that's where you get that phytochemical.
What's your position on medicinal marijuana? We actually just got this question in the chat room.
It's interesting. I was pretty close to it because I smoked so much grass in the first 20. I played music to work my way through school.
That's right.
I sort of went against it completely. And two of my colleagues, one in California and one in Texas, now have been using it in their practices for certain diseases. Glaucoma, for sure, I know it works for. Cancer is sort of new to me. I'm in the middle of a research, probably 60% there. And so I'll give you a really authentic answer, but I believe I'm going to go in the direction that this is healthy. Now, it's not smoking the grass. That's not good for anyone. What it really is they take the oil out of the grass, and there's medicinal properties in there now that literally help to get the immune system engaged so it can start to reverse or help to reverse disease.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I know a lot of our listeners are rejoicing right now.
Yeah, I know it. They're all potheads over there in Tampa.
We're at the beach, right?
Doctor, this is right around the world. I don't, seriously, because it's not
a Tampa problem. It's everywhere. I know.
Yeah. It is. So, what is the response to? I know you travel the world. You and your wife, Anna Maria, travel the world talking about this, as you said, at medical conferences. What is the response by the Western medicine world to this?
Well, I mean, in generally they ignore it and they try to lighten to silly. And the one response, which is a very feeble one, is give me empirical evidence. And they don't realize that whole thing was set up by the pharmaceutical industry. So they preclude 95% of the population by saying you need to do a $20 million study before you can get something on the market. But I beat them at their own game. So when I heard this year after year after year after, I started to read the research globally. My wife speaks 7 languages. And bottom line is, I read massive amounts of research and started to publish them in books and articles I do from their university. So now I'm at a conference and doctors are there, and often they say, well, how do you know what you're saying is true? Well, we do clinical research in Hippocrates. We just don't publish the study. And universities come to us and say, at times the wise ones, let's do studies. And so we wash our hands of it. We let the academics do it. We're not academics. We are practicing. We do clinical research on humans, not on computers and rats. And that's how we know it works. But now I publish books that basically, often, I'll tell you a funny story. I was with doctors down in South America a week ago. And one stood up, very arrogant doctor, of course, who was overwhelmed by the information we gave. And especially 20 minutes earlier, a woman stood up and said, I went to Hippocrates, I had brain cancer, I was told I had, 6 months to live, and here I am 8 years later.
Wow.
And so he was sort of disturbed by this. And so he stood up and said, what you say sounds possible, but there's no way you can prove this. And I said, doctor, what university do you work with? And he told me, and I said, well, you have to go to this book I wrote, and here's the chapter and here's the page, because your university, by the way, published a study showing that food reversed cancer.
Wow.
And I said, you didn't know that? And he looked at me, and 200 people are in this room.
Oh
you didn't know this? And he was dead silent. I said, well, sometime get up off, from your chair and walk down to the medical department before you have opinions and tell me that I have no proof, because the very university that pays your paycheck has proof of this. I don't have to come here, down to, to Argentina to tell you this. You can learn this, probably 2 minutes from where your desk is.
Wow.
Doctor, what would you suggest for the listeners, and to start a healthy lifestyle like that? Let's say,
Well, number one, you have two kind of listeners. You have people that are really sick. People that are really sick immediately have to engage. Because you want to survive, you've got to take responsibility. The other group of listeners can take their time. And I learned this in France because I'm very American. So when I went to France, there was a guy over there that reversed AIDS years ago coming through our program. And I did a lecture in Paris. I was really Americana and yelling and screaming, "You've got to change." And afterward, he said, "Everything you said was absolutely correct, but how you said it was horrible." He said, "French people will not listen to you." So I said, "Jacques, tell me how you think I should say it." He said, "Before you say this, always say the words, 'This is a possibility.' So give people an opportunity. It's a possibility that you really can be healthy. It's a possibility you don't have to age. It's a possibility your joints don't have to hurt, or you don't have to have a blood sugar disorder, or get cancer like your family did. That is definitely a possibility. And if you're really as addicted as I was when I started this, just get rid of 8, if you want to change in a year, get rid of 8% of bad things every month and put 8% good things. In the area I'm talking to you in now, you have great health stores all over. You have health restaurants. I eat at them when I'm there. Part of my family's in the Tampa area.
Yes.
But bottom line is, people don't know this. They go to the same old things, get into the habits, have that addiction thing. Next thing, if you want 2 years to take, if you're healthy, you have 2 years. Remember, you've been destroying your life all along.
Okay.
So if you change 4% a month, if you're really lethargic, slow, and not caring enough about yourself. So anyone can do it. And reading, you mentioned Life Force. Not that I'm trying to sell you a book. It's a book that I portray what we've learned in 6 decades. And in that book, it's written for the lay public, not scientists. And it tells you, here's the first step, here's the second step, here's the third step. And you don't have to be a gangbuster, but if you're fighting a cancer, if you have, AIDS, if you have multiple sclerosis or Parkinson's disease, or something easy like diabetes, you got to get on the horse and, think about coming to us or at least getting online. Let me give you another way to listen more to me if I haven't beaten you up enough. Several years ago, I started a web presence with a colleague of mine called TheRealTruthAboutHealth.com.
Okay.
TheRealTruthAboutHealth.com. And you get on there, and I'm 140 hours speaking on different subjects, and it's Google-fied. I was going to say Global-fied. It's Google-fied. And so anything I've ever said on brain cancer or getting pregnant or eating food or marijuana, you put it on and it's my voice, or you can get it in writing. And when you get it in writing, you can hit it in any language you want. It comes up. And, it's not only me. I have other colleagues, but I'm the central person on there. And we do conferences. We did one in Times Square in New York City at the turn of this year, by the way. We brought in other truth tellers. Dr. Davis, who's the leading advocate against cell phone use because it causes brain cancer.
Wow.
We brought in the number one advocate in the world, Dr. Uplander, who shows you that eating meat and dairy actually creates upward of 50% of the greenhouse gases on the planet. It's not your cars that aren't, hybrids. It's literally meat and dairy, raising them, shipping them, eating them, all of that process.
Sure.
And so, The Real Truth About Health is going to bring you to the real truth tellers who aren't afraid. We're going to tell you what they've learned, not only as scientists, but in their practical practices. And this is what America has to wake up to. This was a great country at one time that literally was created by courageous pioneers who came here because they were fleeing religious prejudice or starvation or some insanity. And what has happened is that we've become the most crippled culture. Next week I'll be in Europe. I'll be on an 8-country tour of Europe starting Wednesday. And I travel the world. Americans have this great, grandiose idea of how wonderful we are. And we still rely on us and our wonder of the Second World War. We're not the same people. We're weakened people. Mm-hmm. And until we get our lives back and become strong and healthy and don't continue to be blind consumers and just go down the road to our own death, we will never have the America we had at one point.
That is a very strong point to end on. And I have to say, thank you so much, Dr. Clement. I'm going to read your books, Life Force, and I hope that you will have us down to visit. Tom and I will come down and visit.
I invite you anytime. Make sure I'm in town, and I'm going to give you an extra dose of wheatgrass when you come.
Thank you so much. We look forward to it.
Hey, listen, you're absolutely awesome, and we appreciate it, just as Ali said. Your attitude is amazing. What's really cool? I can feel it, hear it, smell it. It's just there.
You're moving people to change.
It's awesome, man. And thanks so much.
Both of you. Keep up your good work.
Thank you so much, Dr. Clement. God bless.
Have a great one. Have a safe one. So what was really cool?
Yes,
you don't have to do it
all
once.
Of it.
I had said to Ali, I says, okay, we're going vegan. What are we doing here? You know what I mean?
You have to take it slowly. I love how he gave the formula. 8% a month if you want change in 1 year.
Yeah.
4% a month if you want to change in 2 years.
Right.
So people that are really sick need to be more aggressive.
If you're really sick, just go for it, folks. Right. Don't even think about it.
That's right. But I mean, talking to someone like that, and also, we had an interview with Rich Roll, which you can find at TFNN as well, who is the plant-powered Ultraman athlete. I mean, this guy, he's done incredible things, in terms of pushing the body physically, athletically, on a plant-powered diet. So I think there's a lot of misconceptions, but it's also really important to educate yourself, because you can't just eat the same thing the same way every day. You have to make sure you get a really varied diet, so that you're getting all the nutrients that you need. That's why education's really important. You should check out their website and books.
Big deal.
Yes, and the fact that you can grow your own.
I'm going to go out in the field right now.
You can grow your own a lot of things. As Dr. Clement is protesting.
Oh, you have to love it. You have to love it.
Yeah, so brilliant. Very useful information.
And it's realtruthonhealth.com.
Yes.
That's where he has all those videos or audios.
Yes.
Check it out, folks.
And how cool is it that Steve Rhodes just drove down there? He didn't even know we were talking to Dr. Clement today, but, the universe works that way, so pretty awesome.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope that you'll be with us again next week, 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Mindful Living at TFNN.com. Namaste.
Namaste,
Peace
folks.
and love.
Have a great one.
You're watching Tiger TV.